This video is part 4 of a 10-part series. Part 5 will be released tomorrow, and you can watch the previously released parts, including the series intro, if you haven't already. Literally living in a box. I am on a mission, the magical mystery bucket of wonder. From this bucket, we will pull out at random the puzzle to talk about. The puppet cube. I have a history with this one. So there is the puppet cube. Even the easier version 2 version here is probably the most difficult puzzle we'll be talking about, which means we get to move on to something that's a little more beginner friendly, which is the Master Pyraminx. So, as you've probably found out within the first 3 seconds, the Master Pyraminx is a Pyraminx of sorts. Of course, if you're familiar with the Pyraminx, then this looks a little different. So this is what the normal one looks like. Clearly, we have added a layer in here, and more layers is going to equal more difficulty. So we have the normal Pyraminx. It's kind of like the 3x3 of the Pyraminx realm. So the Master is kind of like a 4x4. And if you've made the jump from 3x3 to 4x4, then you know that it's pretty difficult, especially if you're not using a tutorial of any sorts. You gotta learn how to build centers and edges, you gotta learn how to put those together, and then parity algorithms are a whole nother deal. But if you enjoyed that learning process, then you're gonna love going from the normal Pyraminx to the Master, because it's kind of a similar route. Now, unlike a 3x3, just a normal Pyraminx here has no real centerpiece here, so the Master does, so that's kind of a new added level of difficulty. There are some things you can apply moving from a 3x3 to a 4x4 that you can use when moving from normal Pyraminx to the Master, but those centers really aren't one of them that I found, and it's a little tricky. So here we have the Master Pyraminx solved, and here it is scrambled up. Now, a bit later, after receiving this thing and solving it for the first time, I found there's actually a couple ways to solve it, but the way I prefer is just simple reduction. You see these pieces here, 1, 2, 3, are just kind of like, you know, a 3-part edge pair on, say, a 5x5. Look, right here we have, yes, 3 pair here for an edge, 1, 2, 3 pair here for an edge. So I just try to solve those all together, reduce it down a little bit, and here we are. Got all of our little 3-pair edges together right here. And I don't want to hear anybody out there yapping about, you know, how the first step was actually to twist your little corner pieces into place and then you go on to edge pairing. These don't matter. What does matter was the next step and the way I solved this, which is to just kind of solve it like a normal Pyraminx without paying any attention to your center pieces, because those are gonna come later. Okay, now the fun part and the hardest part is getting all of your centerpieces into place here. I only got 3 to rotate here around here, and this is the part that I couldn't figure out what to do. I was stumped, and I unfortunately had to downright sin is what it is, and look up a tutorial. And in that tutorial I found an algorithm to rotate all of these around. It is a pretty simple one. It's not super long. Just, you know, I'm not going to show it to spoil anything, but it's not that tricky. Frankly, I should have been able to figure it out on my own. I guess I was just lazy. I'd say this is more in the kind of medium difficulty range. Definitely easier than the puppet cube if you give it the time and thought. If you remember that sort of challenge and that satisfaction of finally succeeding, moving from a 3x3 to a 4x4 cube, it's kind of a similar feeling with this thing. And I think that that kind of experience is well worth it, especially for under $10. Just under $10, however. This one comes in at $9.99, just sort of barely sneaking it into the list, but it's a fantastic puzzle. It deserves a place. This here is the Shengshao Pyraminx, and it's pretty good. Turning is decent. It comes a bit loose, at least it did for me, so I tighten the screws up on the tips here. These little pieces just come apart. You can tighten it up, there's a screw in there, and it's a little more stable. When it's loose, it's a bit catchy and unstable, so just think about that if you want to get one. And now, plugging the Shangqiao Master Pyraminx into our 100% accurate ranking system. For value, we are going to give this a 7. You get a lot of puzzle here for under $10, and it is a very fun puzzle. I just kind of wish that the stability was a bit better. Now, I do know that higher order Pyraminxes are not easy to make, so for this price, this one, it does a mighty fine job. For quality, we are also going to go with a 7. Again, this is great for what it is. Turning is more than acceptable, and the plastic feels quality, doesn't feel like it's gonna break. But along with those small stability problems, you also have some catchiness, which is present to some degree, even after proper tensioning. I don't think I would call this puzzle very speed cubable currently. And for difficulty, wait for it. You already know, it's a 7, there we go. Putting together edge pairs is pretty straightforward if you're comfortable solving 5x5, but it does require some extra thinking to make it work with the Pyraminx's axes. But those little centerpieces are the real kicker here. If you can figure them out on your own, let me know how you did it. I was not.